This is episode number 367 of WPwatercooler. This is WordPress 5.5. This episode is brought to you by ServerPress, Maker's Desktop Server. They make local WordPress development easy. Check them out over at serverpress.com. And The Query. Go check out The Query at WPwatercooler.com/TheQuery, where you can ask some questions.
Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog.
I'm Steve Zango. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
I'm Jay Reed. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress at Jay Reed Media on all the things.
My name is Russell Aaron. I do things with WordPress in Las Vegas.
It's Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg.
Go help us out over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler. You can subscribe to this content and hit the little bell. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much for all that you do with that of subscribing, hitting the like buttons, hitting little things in the corner like I talked about last episode. Lots of good stuff.
Ding, ding, ding. You can't gamble, but you can ring our bell.
You can ring my bell.
You know what rings my bell?
That's good. That's good. Steve stopped right before we were at the fair use point right there.
You know what? You know what rings my bell, fellas? WordPress 5.5.
Ooh, look at you already getting on topic. That's awesome.
Swoosh.
Oh yeah, WordPress 5.5. So that's supposed to be coming out in August, right? That's what at least that's what the ItterTubes say is 5.5 is.
That's Julius Caesar's month.
Is it now?
Actually, that's July. It's Augustus Caesar's month. That's why it's called August.
What?
You're here for the facts, people.
The random facts.
Right? Oh my gosh.
You didn't know that? That's why July is Julius and August is Augustus. I know you knew that. You're the other king of the random.
I do know. I have a head full of useless information.
Yeah. I wish some other stuff would retain other than the stuff that does catch in there.
You'd think I'd kill on Jeopardy, but every time I watch it, I'm like, I'm lost. I'm like, I have no idea what he's talking about.
You and I have the same head. It's so weird. I feel so weird about that. I have so little in common with, well, I have more in common with you, but like Russ and you, and still at the same time, we have like the same frame. It's weird.
Yeah.
Just goes to teach you, we're all the same inside.
So 10 days ago, the betas came out.
Jason's moving on.
Yeah, I'm moving on. 10 days ago, the betas came out. Was it 9 days? In 9 days, the release candidate will be coming out. I'm just looking on the website. I'm not like doing calculations here or anything.
Since we're renaming master and stuff, can we rename release candidate too?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Are we removing release or are we removing candidate?
Release, Jason.
Oh, okay. Okay. Just want to make sure. But general's still okay, right? General release is okay?
I'm fine with that.
No, nothing's okay.
Nothing's okay.
No, general is a little too paramilitary.
I mean, generally speaking.
But we're still okay about talking about core, right? So one of the things that they're talking about is updating Gutenberg within WordPress core using the the Gutenberg plugin that they've been building out, and then taking that, rolling it into the actual release, and doing those sorts of things. One thing that we were talking about during the pre-show, which I don't quite understand because I'm just not a Gutenberg person just yet, is the fact that
come on in, the water's fine.
There wasn't a freaking navigation menu block.
I actually don't think that's what that is.
What is it?
I don't think it's a navigation block.
Oh, so fun fact.
I think it's block navigation.
Well, okay, these are two separate things. But on WordPress.com, bringing you the .com news, there is indeed a navigation block, which is a navigation menu block, and that is coming because that's part of the theme deconstruction of Gutenberg's trajectory. Yes.
So I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. There's a revised block navigation, but I don't think we're talking about a navigation block. I think you're thinking of drag something into a page that shows navigation. That's not what this is.
Yeah, it is.
So what is this thing? Because
That's what that is. I'm telling you.
menus.
Okay, I think there's two things that have the name navigation in them. I just want to make sure.
No, the other one's the block directory.
I mean, I usually get stumped when they don't put a comma or they do put a comma, and I got to figure out, like, what are we talking about here? But with this, there's like navigation menus block.
So that's what I'm trying to
different.
I have
Yes.
a restaurant website and I'm trying to order, right? That's what that is. I think that's
Gotcha.
the block menu.
Okay.
And so
I didn't land. No one thought that was funny? Come on. My menus joke?
I repeat it again. I didn't hear it.
I said it's when you're in a restaurant and you need to order. That's the block when you have a restaurant site. With menus.
Like a PDF.
So menus, double meaning.
Menus. There's more than one meaning for menus, and we're all getting confused. Oh man! All right, I gotta try harder.
So I have the beta installed, and I don't see a menus block or a navigation block. Am I missing something?
I mean, you're definitely missing things. I don't know if you're missing that specifically.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's good to be back. I've been on vacation, so it's good.
I know. I'm just saving up
welcome
for you. I missed you, Steve. Can you tell? I don't know what that is, actually. All I can tell you, because I haven't looked at that particular component, but I can tell you that there is a navigation menu, i.e. about, home, about, contact, services, blah, 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 block in WordPress.com.
Okay.
In their version of the block editor. Therefore, and based off of that labeling, I have concluded that those are the same thing. However, the conclusion is, only 90%.
That would make sense. Although I this morning I brought in the latest beta, the nightly beta, and I do not see a navigation.
Sure? I didn't do that yet, so you're ahead of me. You type in navigation and it's not coming up with the block.
I'm positive. There's nothing.
There's a slash menu thing that you can do, right?
All right. Well, good for us sitting here trying to figure something out live.
Anyway, why don't we start at the top? Right? Why don't we start a little bit more general before we get to blocks?
Let's start at the beginning.
Because the interface has gotten a big update, right? So the whole block interface actually just feels better. It feels better. It works better. Even in the beta, I just think it's a better interface than what's in the current block editor. And I think it starts with the you can now, when you hit the plus button in the top left, all the blocks show up on the left. So the normal, what was in it before in the current editor, it's a little pop-up, right? Yeah. But
so again, this is all just like, if you go to WordPress.com, you can literally see a preview of all of this stuff. Like they are literally like preceding it there.
Totally get it. I was gonna say it actually feels more like Beaver Builder, right? And so Beaver Builder actually has this same thing.
Except for it's on the right, and this is on the
right.
left.
This is on the left. Yeah, well, it's different sides of the window.
Real different.
But anyway, that just having that whole menu sort of fill the left side of the screen in a scroll bar feels more natural to me than the little modal window, right? So that's nice, right? But the other thing that they added was now you have blocks and you have this new thing called patterns, right? And so patterns gives you a little preview of a design that you can drag into a
We've
been talking about that.
We have.
Wait, is this that thing where you're like copy and pasting MySpace style to like make Gutenberg blocks work?
Yes, it's filled with dancing babies.
Well, good. I mean, I'm glad that they made that legitimate.
Sparkle gifts. This is when the millennials get a hold of the web. Is really what's happening.
We need to set up some sort of directory where you can get dancing babies and sparkle gifts and everything else for your
little guy digging.
Blocks.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
Why haven't we done that? I actually built a long time ago a 90s style GeoCity site on my free, like back in the day, I got a free WP engine site from one of my friends was like one of the people there. Doesn't work there anymore. Not you. And I actually just got a notice that site got updated like this week. I was like, I'm glad that's still sitting there with its flashing under construction.
Speaking of which, like they added that in now. So you have automatic updates for plugins as well as themes, which Steve, I know you absolutely hate that. And I hate it too, because I had an issue with one of my client sites that auto updated, and I was like, oh, fun. Okay. And it was running 5.5 and it was in staging. So staging is kind of just like, oh yeah, let's just update it anyhow.
Ouch.
I have been running the update, the feature plugin of this since they announced the feature plugin. It's fine. Like, and again, for my use case, it's fine. But there are people who go to manage WordPress hosts like WP Engine, like Kinsta, like Pagely, who handle a lot of the vertical and horizontal for you and handle those updates in a way where they can do, I know that Liquid Web does something where they'll basically take a snapshot of your site, run the plugin update, take another snapshot of your site, and if the two snapshots don't match, if there's too much visual difference or whatever, they'll roll the plugin update back for you. They'll roll the theme update back for you.
That's still going to be handy.
It's going to be handy, but for a lot of the never-ending cat blog that Jason always talks about, they probably will do just fine turning auto updates on or having them on and just letting Yoast and Jetpack and whatever, maybe Contact Form 7 even updating in the background.
Say just had like a full body heave.
Crossword can take out the bad words.
Contact Form 7 is out and actually now past actually really bad because of the way they store their data in terms of both California and European data privacy laws.
You know what would make it better if they just made it Contact Form 8. Oh, she almost spit her coffee.
No, it didn't come completely out of my nose.
So now we have to make a thing for glitter blocks and marquee blocks. So a site for that and Contact Form 8. So that's two takeaways.
The best thing I've ever heard.
Back to the UI for a moment, right? We were talking about the new UI navigation down the left, the patterns. One of the other things I know they're adding, I don't see it in the beta yet, is a block directory, right? So you have the ability, if people are posting glitter eyes or dancing baby blocks, you can add them like you add plugins and themes inside of WordPress. So there will be a whole directory for blocks, just like there is a directory for themes and plugins.
What
could possibly go wrong there?
I wonder the implementation in terms of plugins that add blocks, or obviously there shouldn't be theme-specific blocks, but the theme should just style the blocks. But plugin-specific blocks that are not decoupled from their
won't do that. So it says specifically, so plugins that add blocks are not part of the block directory. It's just individual blocks that are going to be in the block directory.
So blocks are plugins, but not all plugins are blocks.
That's correct.
Steve,
wait. Somebody just translate this for me real quick. Okay, so you guys last episode told me that I shouldn't install all of the blocks, all the block plugins. But now you're telling me that I could accidentally install all the block plugins by picking the different various blocks that are in the directory that come from different
You can add blocks in one by one.
So let me give you an example. So Atomic Blocks, that's a plugin that you install, and it adds a whole bunch of extra blocks to your...
It's the Jetpack of block plugins.
Correct. But those individual blocks that come with Atomic Blocks are not available in the new block directory because they're part of a plugin. So they're not separated unless they separate them out and put them in the block directory. Thank you, Sam.
And then you could have a plugin of blocks and individual blocks and get double blocked. There's something in there, but I'm not taking it. Feel free to go there.
So JD in the chat says, "Oh my gosh, Jason's he beat me to using Gutenberg," which is totally true.
Jason to Gutenberg, he's like slow balls on this. I don't know why.
Did you just say slow balls?
that must be a sports term I'm not familiar with. What did we say?
Normally, I'm the one who earns this. Normally, I'm the one who earns us the explicit tag on the episode,
Slowball's
but I think
explicit.
old Slowball say just beat me to it.
It's like a baseball. It has nothing to do with anyway.
I don't think it is.
Right now.
I don't think it is.
Look, he's slow to the punch.
Yeah.
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 There was that.
Just move on.
That's one way to start
So
the weekend.
One of the other.
I was going to say just to touch on the block directory. I believe that the block directory, in part, is because of there's like interoperability. I know that Drupal and the Drupal project has adopted
Drupal all of a
Gutenberg.
sudden.
Yeah,
What?
It's true.
it's true.
We talked about that a while ago, but I didn't think it was actually happening.
I think they just now call it Drupalberg.
Oh God, that's funny.
No.
No, not
Go on.
Drupalberg's not funny.
Yeah,
It's
go on.
funny that Drupal has integrated Gutenberg.
Oh yeah.
Drupal.
You got her again right when she drank.
You know what? I'm almost out of coffee. I'm going to drink this right now because I don't think I can last
Okay.
another 12 minutes.
So,
Not the way this
so
episode
I
is going.
I believe that there's some interoperability at play there. So they'll have a block directory, and blocks can be used and ported in between Gutenberg and Drupal, which I think is interesting. So not necessarily have a block that's like coupled to a plugin or a WordPress install. I think that's pretty cool.
And absolutely, and the technology behind blocks should be agnostic to the to whatever system you're using. It's all just self-contained React.
Okay,
Right.
but I foresee, you know, I don't give a rat's booty about Drupal, so let's stop talking about that.
Oh, we've driven Cosper to drink.
Oh, yeah. But I
Yeah.
just want to say I definitely foresee some issues with this block directory when you're like, ooh, I want to add a column. And you're like, column. And then it's like, brrr, here's like 12 to 24 column plugins. And then you're like, what? Installing all of those and testing them live on your site, like in the page? Like, what nightmare are we creating here? Like, seriously, who else?
I have that website. I can show you what the nightmare looks like.
Again,
That's going to happen. Like, and then what? You're like, it's already hard enough because there's a default separator block that comes with Gutenberg. It's not that great. Like, it has just like one setting. You're like, cool, okay, width. But there's like with atomic blocks, there's a separator, there's an AB separator block that has a little more stuff. You can add the divider line in that block, or like, you know, change the color or do the spacing. It's got more stuff. So now, like, it's already like when my client is using the site, even though they're like, great, I can use Gutenberg, sometimes they use the separator block, sometimes they use the atomic block. And I'm like, this is just, like, this is going to end up like the theme customizer in like 2013.
Maybe not. And I'm saying that because the reason I'm optimistic is because, like I just explained, the blocks themselves are pretty self-contained. Atomic blocks, when you install the plugin, is adding another layer of overhead, just like any other plugin that you add. But the blocks themselves, if you're not using something like atomic blocks, it's pretty self-contained, right? Now that doesn't mean there can't be JavaScript conflicts on the front end, right? There can, but
I wasn't thinking even about from a conflict point of view.
Well, and that's what I think of when you're adding multiple plugins without any sort of plan, or just adding things willy-nilly, is you end up with scripting conflicts, either PHP scripting or JavaScript. You end up with conflicts.
Right.
I'm a little bit more optimistic when it comes to blocks, just because they are completely self-contained, and I only know this because we've created some. So, I'm not saying that 100%. Say you've got a point, and people are going to add a whole bunch of blocks that they don't know without any plan, or not knowing what they're doing or what could happen, and so that absolutely is a concern.
Can we get into XML sitemaps?
Actually, I was going to talk about one more interface thing before we get there. So one of the other nice things that I saw in the beta is, in addition to the interface changes, inline image editing got a nice little overhaul, right? And so if you put an image block in, So that little cropping tool that's in WordPress where you have to open up the window and do the crop and set your size, that's all right inside of the block now. So you can choose, whether you want the original image or the square image or a particular size image to fit within that space. And then that cropping tool is also available right inside of the block. So that's kind of nice. I don't always recommend using that tool, but it's nice to have those tools, kind of front and center inside of the image block.
Nice.
So that's really nice. Anyway, one of the other, before you get to sitemaps, one of the other really nice things that has to do with images that I think is a welcome addition to this version of WordPress is by default they're now adding lazy loading to all images, right? And so that's a big should be a good speed improvement to WordPress, because one of the things that I'm hearing from my clients, especially clients that haven't really updated their WordPress site in a while, is that their page speed is just taking a big hit. And a lot of people come to me and they go, WordPress is just slow.
What we just talked about. We just talked about how Google just updated their page speed thing.
And there's all that algorithm changes all the time, and we can get into the specifics, but the top thing that's been pretty consistent that kind of messes up your Google page speed is lazy loading, right? And so if you can turn on lazy loading, that should give you a page speed boost just by itself for any sites that are loading slowly. So that's a welcome addition in my mind.
That's cool. Well, one of the questions JD had in the chat was, are ACF blocks blocked from the block directory?
I would think so, because you need ACF.
Yeah. Which sounds like they should.
Yeah, you have to have that's plugin.
ACF actually has its own block creation system that's different from creating a block from scratch. If you've looked at a recent version of ACF, you can actually use it to create blocks that have their own custom fields in it, right? So you can set up your own fields that make blocks do certain things right inside of ACF. It's a whole separate system, and it's outside of default Gutenberg.
Yeah,
when we've used it, and my only beef with it is a resource hog.
Like resource on the server side, not client side, right?
Also, ACF is not
on the server side. If you set up a whole bunch of ACF blocks and then you start to build pages with those blocks, you're going to see your dashboard go to a crawl. It is a resource bear.
So to dip back in on the lazy
people should
loading,
not just be using ACF. I
love ACF. I think ACF is great when used for just fields, but when used without understanding what it can do, right? There are a lot of gotchas in ACF.
Cosper, you're gonna say something about lazy loading?
Yeah, to dip back in on lazy loading, something that I feel like needs to be pointed out is that this lazy loading implementation is a browser-based lazy loading implementation. So the lazy loading plugins that are out there right now are mainly JavaScript-based and load the images as they come, but you're adding a little bit of extra JavaScript to your pages. What this lazy loading does is this adds basically just an extra little tag to each one of your images that tells Chrome, that tells any browser that supports it, and all of the browsers are currently working on supporting it if they don't already, to lazy load those images. So this is something that actually will get rid of a plugin for you once it's like fully supported by browsers. And I think that's great. The less JavaScript, the less needless JavaScript,
beyond happy.
The less needless JavaScript you have on your site, the better. Like, so not only will it help your performance in that your images are lazy loading. Go on,
say is lazy loading right now.
What extra plugins that you have? I'm totally lazy loading. It's terrible. I don't know what's happening.
Say's like 5 seconds behind, which is actually
more plugins add.
We should just keep her like this for good, Jason.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff. It's good. It's her comedy value just went up. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So hey, XML sitemaps.
Yes.
This one's an interesting one because the fact that we've already had XML sitemaps and now we're adding them into WordPress as WordPress itself versus using a third-party software to make that happen. We have no opinions about this, right? I mean, everything's just good.
Yeah, right.
Where should we start with that, and who do we want to piss off first?
That's where you go.
Don't look at me. I'm behind.
No, I think it's interesting that now that we have XML sitemaps coming to core, that it gets rid of not a lot, but a fair chunk of functionality that a lot of SEO plugins target, which honestly, if they focus on the SEO and stop worrying about sitemaps, hey, we're better for it. However, I do know, at least out of the gate, or at least what I've heard, is that Yoast is still going to be generating if you have Yoast installed, they'll still generate the Yoast sitemaps and basically disable that core functionality in 5.5 because they, of course, have an opinion about how a sitemap should be generated, and their opinion was given to the core team working on this, but they just still think that they can give you a better experience. And as far as that goes, more power to them because they understand search engine optimization. However, I do think it's interesting that they can shut this off and they're not just planning on ditching their XML sitemaps. It's one less thing for them to have to maintain.
Yeah, and there is an advantage.
There's going to be so much unintentionally indexed content happening. Right. Like that is going to be everyone's going to be like, "Ooh, I didn't know that page was available on the internet." Ooh.
And that's actually what Yoast gives you, right? Is it gives you the ability to customize your sitemap and take things out that shouldn't be there, right? And I'm not an SEO expert, but I do know enough about sitemaps that you want those as clean as possible, right? And you want all that junk out of there that you don't want indexed. It makes the indexing process for Google much more streamlined and can help your ranking.
And there's a lot of plugins that use custom post types as a way of displaying content on the site that's not necessarily content. Like for instance, Beaver Builder stores this stuff that way. If it was just like Say said, a full-on fire hose, you would have like templates that would be showing up. WordPress templates that would be showing up. All sorts of really goofy things like that. It makes me wonder, like, will all-in-one SEO need to be renamed to all but some SEO because it won't be doing the sitemap part of it, or what?
I think that'll be included in Contact Form 8.
Probably.
Full circle.
I just hope that that's a good note to end on. I can't make it better.
I do want to have a discussion at some point here regarding, are widgets still a thing, and should we be using widgets still, and why is it that blocks in widgets editing areas is a thing still? Like that's a hopeful item that they're adding to the roadmap. I don't understand that.
I think more importantly, our sidebar is still a thing.
Yeah, well, we'll have to take that aside.
Let's have an episode. What's still a thing?
Well, I think that's important, right? Well, we'll save it for next week. I've got a lot of opinions and thoughts on this.
All right, folks, you have a good one. Here's our outro. You can go help us out over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler. And here's the fine folks that have helped us out on Patreon. We really appreciate them and all that they do for us. If you like this content, hit subscribe, hit the little bell, and we're a podcast as well. So if you listen to us as a podcast, we'd really appreciate it if you were to leave us a review on whatever podcasting network that you're doing this with, especially over on Apple Podcasts. We'd really appreciate that over there. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Talk to you all later, and goodbye.